I started reading Metamorphoses by Ovid, and today I'm going to point out a few links between Metamorphoses and Shakespeare. Then I'll share some thoughts on the very beginning of the book, a short section called The Creation in Book 1. The first impression is that it's very interesting, especially if you've read Genesis chapter 1 before. The similarities and differences between the two are fascinating. Look at my scribbles. That usually is an indicator of how engaged my brain is. Before we go into the text itself, let's look through the table of contents quickly and spot the links to Shakespeare. That alone explains why I specifically want to read Metamorphoses. The story of Pyramus and Thisbe is in book 4. Bottom and the rude mechanicals put on the tragic story of Pyramus and Thisbe in A Midsummer Night's Dream, and the tragedy is basically the story of Romeo and Juliet. Shakespeare wrote A Midsummer Night's Dream and Romeo and Juliet around the same time. The two plays start off very similar if you think about it. The parents, especially the fathers, do not approve of their daughter's choice of boyfriend, and the price of love is the penalty of death. A Midsummer Night's Dream has a happy ending where things are sorted out favorably, whereas things in Romeo and Juliet ended badly. That's a tangent. There are 3 more links. Shakespeare's early erotic poem, Venus and Adonis, expands on the myth of the exact same title in Book 10. In Titus Andronicus, the story of Lavinia's rape is drawn from Tereus' rape of Philomela in Book 6. And the third one, most of Prospero's speech in Act 5 of The Tempest is taken word for word from a speech by Medea in Book 7. There are many links to the Iliad as well. I won't bore you with those. The second reason I want to read Metamorphoses is because of this. At the back of the Forger edition of A Midsummer Night's Dream, one of the titles under further reading is Johnson Bates' essay called Shakespeare and Ovid. Quote, "For Bate, A Midsummer Night's Dream is Shakespeare's metamorphic comedy, Titus Andronicus being his metamorphic tragedy, and The Tempest his metamorphic romance." This is a book that was read and appreciated by Shakespeare, and it had much influence on him. How can I miss such a book? Move on to the creation account in Book 1 of Metamorphoses. After reading this short section, my immediate question was, who is Ovid? Why did he write Metamorphoses? When did he write it? According to Wikipedia, Metamorphoses was written in AD 8. I was curious because, as you will see as we go, the creation account here shares amazing similarities with the creation account in the Bible. I'm immediately curious if Metamorphoses was influenced by Genesis. There are disagreements between scholars about exactly when Genesis was written, but it was definitely written before AD 8. If Metamorphoses wasn't influenced by Genesis, the similarities between the two accounts are remarkable. There are 5 lines at the beginning of Book 1 before the creation account starts. I will read it for you so you get a feel of the book as well as the translation. By the way, I'm reading the Oxford World's Classics edition, translated by A.D. Melville in 1986. I personally think to say it's a new translation on the cover is a bit misleading. It was 2008 when this translation was reissued for the most recent time. I think they should have taken a new translation off by then. Here's the beginning of Metamorphoses. Of bodies changed to other forms I tell, you gods, who have yourselves wrought every change. Inspire my enterprise and lead my lay in one continuous song from nature's first remote beginnings to our modern times. So the author lays it out clearly straight away. The book is all about bodies changed to other forms, hence the title Metamorphoses, roughly meaning transformation. It's going to be one continuous song which lasts 379 pages in my version. The time frame of this story is from the beginning, the creation of the world, till the time of the author himself. That's all quite straightforward. Next, notice the changes were brought on by the gods, and this song is addressed to the gods. The author asks them to inspire him and lead my lay. What does that mean? I had to look it up in the dictionary. Apparently, lay means a short lyric or a narrative poem meant to be sung. Never heard of that before, so here we go. Before the world was made, there was one raw, undivided, and lifeless mass called chaos. Genesis describes a similar state. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. The first thing that stood out to me was in line 5, where it says, within this undivided mass, warring seeds of ill-joined elements compressed together. I find the word choice striking. Before the world even existed, on the opening page, there was the idea of war already. If you keep on reading, it becomes obvious that by warring, the author describes things of opposite nature, like cold and hot, moist and dry, hard and soft, and light and heavy. They are not actually fighting. Having said that, this formless mass is clearly considered as negative because the author calls it strife, and it's a strife that needs to be solved like a problem. This strife, a god with nature's blessing, solved. A god with a small g solved the problem by separating earth from sky, sea from land, etc. More importantly, he brought peace and harmony to the so far warring elements. Everything was now in its proper place: the earth, the sea, the rivers and lakes, the plains, the mountains and the forests. This god with a small g was referred to as God with a small g, or simply he, for about 2 pages until a few more characters appeared. Firstly, there was Providence with a capital P. I'm not sure if this is a separate god called Providence, or this is the same god, or the author means the protective care of God or of nature as a spiritual power, which is the definition of Providence with a small p. Whoever he was, Providence parceled the earth in zones, according to the zones of the heaven. Then, another character called the world's creator appeared. Again, it's not immediately obvious if this creator with a capital C is the same as the god with a small g who separated everything, or the same as Providence. But let's see what he did. The world's creator limited where the 4 winds could or could not go, which I think was very specific. Next, scarce had he, God the creator, with a capital C, thus all things in finite bounds divided, when the stars in darkness blind, long buried, over all the spangled sky began to gleam, and that no part of place should lack fit forms of life. The firmament, meaning the heavens, he made the home of gods and goddesses and the bright constellations. Do you think the gods and goddesses already existed at this point? This god, the creator, did not want the heavens to be empty and lifeless, so he made the heavens the home of gods and goddesses. There's a subtle difference between the gods having the first dips in choosing the heavens to be their home, and the heavens were chosen for them. Gods lived there for the sake of the heavens, not heavens for gods. I find that interesting. So gods and goddesses lived in the heavens, and there was the creation of animals. In the sea, he set the shining fish to swim. The land received the beasts, the gusty air, the birds. The last section is the most intriguing. A holier creature of a loftier mind, fit master of the rest, was lacking still. The man was made, perhaps from seed divine, formed by the great Creator, so to found a better world, in likeness of the gods that govern the world. It's talking about the creation of man here. Notice how human was left till the last and singled out by the narrative. In terms of the creation of humans, this is the first striking similarity between Metamorphoses and Genesis. Both accounts give the creation of the world, earth and sky, sea and dry land, and the animals. Both leave the creation of human beings till the end and give much emphasis to it as the climax of the creation narrative. The second similarity is that man was created in the likeness of the gods and was created superior to the animals. In Metamorphoses, man was to be a fit master of the rest. In Genesis, man was to have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. Then Prometheus was mentioned without any introduction. I find this in the Iliad as well. Characters popped up without ceremony all the time. Man was made with earth mixed with water. Interestingly, the earth was specifically the new made earth, so lately parted from the ethereal heavens, kept still some essence of the kindred sky. Earth that Prometheus molded, mixed with water, in likeness of the gods that govern the world. So the earth has some sky in it, which makes the material of man a mixture of all three: earth, water, and sky. The last few lines read, "And while the other creatures on all fours look downwards, man was made to hold his head erect in majesty and see the sky, and raise his eyes to the bright stars above." That's a very dignified and poetic image of humans. Humans are to have dreams and ambitions, care about majestic feelings and bright ideas, and not just about filling their bellies like sheep eating grass. He ends with, "Thus earth, once crude and featureless, now changed, put on the unknown form of humankind." The earth was changed and put on a new form. It points back to the title, Metamorphoses. Among all the differences, I want to point out two. One is that there's only one God with a capital G in Genesis, and every paragraph starts with God said. And whatever God said happened. So it's very straightforward who caused the actions to happen. In Metamorphoses, it's unclear how many gods were involved in the creation, and sometimes God commanded things to happen, and sometimes things just happen on their own. The second difference is the relationship between God and man. In Genesis, God blessed man and spoke to them directly. There's no mention of any relationship between gods and man in book 1 of Metamorphoses so far. I need to keep on reading to find out more about it. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next one.